Hey everybody. Well, I finally made it back to the food forest with the tiny house and stuff. And I just came down here by the freshwater spring that runs across the back that I showed you guys in some other videos. And it's so cold, man. It's like ice cold. But I just scared a family of deer out of here. There was probably about 5 or 6 of them, and they ran off this way. And but yeah, it really feels good to be back here. A lot of things have changed. I've got this grass right here growing up everywhere, and I'm actually glad because I mean so much damage was done in here. And I mean, if this stuff's in here for a reason, then the land obviously needs it. You know, these pioneer plants, they bring all those nutrients up from the soil and build topsoil at the same time. You know, I think you could see all that grass right up there. I mean, that wasn't there the last time I was here. So I'm going to give you guys some updates on all the fruit trees that I planted. And I planted a ton of stuff. A lot of the bigger stuff that I planted is doing great. A lot of the little, you know, 1 foot, 2 foot seedlings, those little bare root plants that you order online, they didn't do as good. You know, sometimes you'd figure that the small stuff would probably do better because it hasn't been messed with too much, but you know, they're just too sensitive. But I've got a couple right over here I can show you. None of the pawpaw trees I planted with Jim did anything. There's still nothing going on with them. So, but yeah, this right here, this is one of the pawpaws. Me and Jim marked it with a plastic bag, and it's not doing anything. But there's a tulip poplar growing in right next to it that's come up since we planted it. So, all right, on to some of the next fruit trees. All right, well, this is one of the first big peaches that I planted, and this right here was the Belle of Georgia peach, and it's got a big old stem on it. And I just planted this last spring, and it was a good sized tree when I planted it, but if you look, this is all the growth that it's put on since then. I mean, that's about a foot of growth right there. So it did good last year, and it's gotten a lot bigger since then. And you can still see some of the flowers. If I would have probably came last week, it would have been beautiful, covered in pink flowers. There's one still open over here. Let's see it. Yep. So the peach is doing great. Just about all the peaches are doing great. And here's one of the apples. It's either apple or pear. Pear, Kiefer pear. And it had a whole bunch of flowers on it. This is doing great. The pears are doing fantastic. And I mean, these were a good sized tree when I planted them, but they weren't that big. I mean, that's a good size. That's huge. So I'm gonna take this off. Yeah, this tree is gonna do fantastic. This tree will get 50-60 feet tall. And a bunch of bees up there with the flowers. So the pear's looking great. I had 2 pears that I planted. Is it 2 or 3? I think it's actually 3. Got them up over here. The damson plum that I planted, it's doing okay. It's growing, but you can see that it must have got too hot or too dry for its little root system. So from right about here up, the tree cut itself off basically. This is all dry and brittle, but right down here it's nice and green. And all the branches down here are all growing. So I'm just glad, I'm actually glad that that's growing. There's 2 of these, and I didn't think either one of them were gonna do anything. But I think this right here was the plum cot, the Hangsa plum cot, which is a plum. It was a plum apricot hybrid. Okay. And I think this is the apple. Yep, yellow delicious apple. And this tree here is doing fantastic also. I thought the deer would take these branches off, and they haven't. So I'm pretty glad, but it just now started to flower. there's probably going to be some fruit on here this year. But yeah, I haven't made it out here in a long time, and it's been about a year since last April. And it wasn't because I didn't want to, but my car's a piece of junk, and for the last year I haven't had a car that would go more than 10-15 minutes at a time without overheating. So we got that all figured out. Looks like it lost a branch. So the first chance I got to come out here, we did, and it's about the middle of April right now. Here's that other damson plum, and it did the same thing. This top right up here is pretty much dead, but I got a bunch of branches growing down here. And that's the thing with a lot of grafted trees, you know, if you have a rough year and it's too dry or too wet and it stresses out the tree will cut it off where the graft is. So the yellow delicious apple that you wanted right here would die, and all the rootstock, which would be like a crab apple or some type of wild apple, would be grown in its place. So if you can, if you're digging something, make sure you plant it below the graft line. And I know everybody else on here says that don't plant it up to the graft line, it'll kill the tree, everything else. But here's the basic of it. If you have a grafted tree from one different tree, a scion, onto a rootstock from a totally different plant, if you bury it with the graft down in the ground, you give this tree right here a chance to root. So if there's stress on it, at least you'll have not only this, but this as a backup if the main rootstock cuts it off. And you won't have a semi-dwarf, you know, deformed tree, but you'd still have a healthy tree, and that's the most important thing. You know, who cares if your tree's dwarf or, you know, you want fruit that you can reach. Would you rather have a tree that's healthy and lives very, very, very long time and not have as much fruit as you want, but you've got a healthy tree? Or you turn it into a dwarf tree, and the peach tree that you've been pruning only lives about 10 or 15 years. So better off having a healthy tree. Here's another peach. This is an early Alberta, and this one right here still has flowers. So it says it's early, but it actually seems a little bit later than the other one. See, yeah, it doesn't even have any of the leaves really yet. So here's another peach. This right here is a Bella Georgia, just like the one down there. And this one still has a bunch of flowers. I think there'll be a bunch of peaches on here, you know. And it looks healthy. It was topped right here. They tried to turn it into a dwarf tree where they cut that and it grew out the sides, but I mean, that's solid. That there is going to be a healthy tree, and I've never watered these. Never watered these. All right, here's another pear, and this one is the Bartlett pear, and it's put so much growth on. I don't know if you can see that. It's put about maybe 2 or 3 feet up there of extra growth since I planted it last spring. And this tree is doing great. Look at that. Yeah, that's a solid tree. So that pear is doing good. Got another one right over here. Sorry about it being bumpy, guys. And this one right here, pretty sure is an apple. Now, I haven't seen these since I planted them last spring. Wow. Oh, nope, this is a Moonglow pear. This is a red pear right here. And wow, this tree is doing fantastic. I mean, it's full of flowers, if you can see that. Beautiful tree. Super healthy. Well, I'm feeling these pears. These pears really like it out here. I was talking to 420 Homestead, my buddy, and I was saying, and so was he, that we'd be lucky if we got about half these trees out here to grow since we planted them. And that was true for the little seedlings, the little bare rootstock stuff. But the stuff I got like from Tractor Supply Company, the big trees that were 5-6 feet tall already, they're doing great. And I got some more up here that I'll show you. Now these are actually a couple of the grapes that I planted right here, right next to the porch. And this is the front porch right here on the tiny house. And they're still doing good. I don't see any little new buds on this one, but this one right here is still growing. All right, now this I'm pretty sure is one of those plum cots, the hang saw plum cot. And I put one up close, and I'm pretty sure this is it. And I put a little ribbon on them all. So this one's good. This one looks like it's doing really good. I got tons of blackberries and stuff growing everywhere. Not sure what this is, but it's got the little ribbon on it, and it's got some little new growth on there. That's good. My big old blueberry. This is the blueberry tree bush that I had on my porch a couple years ago. And I had it on my porch for a while. And it's doing great. So we got a lot of wild blueberries around here too. Alright. This is a Santa Rosa plum. And it looks like it flowered already. But lots of green growth on there. Alright, here's one of the gooseberries. And you can see I got my little tag on here. And the leaves look a lot like a blackberry almost, or kind of like a rose. But that's a gooseberry right there. Cool, I'm happy. I'm pretty sure that's probably either a little cherry tree or something like that. Huh. I'm just glad I tagged all this stuff. Oh yeah. But I got a whole bunch more stuff up there. And these are all a bunch of raspberries that I planted. I don't know. I think they'll start growing. The raspberries and blackberries grow like weeds, so that's pretty much it. That's a tour of the food forest. It's April. I know it's still kind of early. A lot of the stuff hasn't started waking up from winter yet. But I had a pretty good rate. You know, the little seedlings, not so much. You know, I'd probably say I lost about maybe 80% of them, except for gooseberries, some of the little cherries that I had. And other than that, all the big stuff that you can like get at Walmart or Tractor Supply Company, where they're already growing right there in the pot. Whatever I got there, they're more expensive, but whatever the ones of those I've got are still doing great. You know, this Santa Rosa plum right here is looking fantastic. And the pears, the apples, and the peaches are just, they're going to be some nice big trees one day. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have been asking for updates, and this is the first one I've been able to make in about a year. So thanks for watching, guys.